just months before the first shots were fired in one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, a conflict that you've probably never heard of.
The conflict between the government and Tigray rebels is escalating.
A civil war fueled by ethnic divisions has been going on for a year. There are reports of massacres, sexual violence, and accusations that food is being used as a weapon of war by all sides.
I came here, to the oldest country in the world. They call it the cradle of humanity, the birthplace of our oldest ancestors. A country that has survived the rise and fall of empires, the rewriting of maps, the retelling of its own history, and the push and pull of many internal, regional conflicts. But I didn't come here for its ancient religions, its ancient texts, or its ancient fossils. I came for something else. I traveled through its modern capital to see how the country was changing. The heart of East Africa, Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia. And it's still changing today. Consider this place, Fendika. It was a cultural heartbeat of Addis Ababa until the government shut it down. Part of a larger wave of development sweeping the country. Consider further the tribal south, all the tribal areas in the southern region of the country, far away from the government, far away from the capital city, all dwindling away as lands are appropriated, all caught in the tumultuous vortex between new digital modern life and the old world.
This is an Orthodox Christian people like this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like
Ethiopia is changing, modernizing, becoming new. But at what cost? The world's oldest country is being rewritten. The question is, will we be able to see what has been lost? Join me through this video as I take you through Ethiopia from city to bush and show you footage of places that are no longer. From the underground cultural art houses that once held the majesty of Ethiopia's folk music to the very tribes that are threatened today. Please support me with a quick like and subscribe, as the footage you are about to see is incredibly rare. It is never before seen images of places that, at the time, I had no idea were soon going to vanish, or are currently in the process of being wiped away completely. My journey began in the heart of the capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. I traveled there with a friend and compatriot, Ben Dome, a London-based photographer who had been visiting the tribal areas in the south of the country for almost 20 years. He spent a lot of time there in his youth. He had been coming there for 2 decades with his uncle, Dr. David Turton. David Turton was a British anthropologist known for his extensive research in the pastoralist communities of South Ethiopia, most notably the Mercy tribe. So if you go look at my other videos, you'll see a lot of the footage of that tribe. But he had studied those tribes since the 60s and was instrumental in creating a written language of the Mercy, was beloved by the tribe, and as a result, we had been permitted special permission to actually live with them, something that most tourists can't do. Nevertheless, I was invited to come to Ethiopia with Ben. We traveled this mysterious country together. Ben and I were able to walk through the corridors of Addis's historic neighborhoods, through its street markets. We even got to go all through its metal district, this like sort of industrial area behind its main marketplace, the Mercato, one of the largest open-air markets in East Africa. And it was a place where, you know, metal is stripped, metal is fashioned, and all of these families are in this are in these tiny, really cramped communities where they're just fashioning metal, stripping things apart, taking things apart, welding things back together again. It was a fascinating sub-community within larger Ethiopian society. at the time of filming, I had no idea that these things would be gone. I had no idea that all of this footage that I had never released really until now would be completely gone. So everything you're seeing, even though you might be seeing it for the first time, the reason it's important is that these are elements of a society that no longer exist. All of these places, all of these things here have been replaced by giant skyscrapers, major interstate highways, coffee shops, retail stores, all things to attract foreign tourists and foreign interests. These are things that have completely transformed Ethiopia. I'm not even necessarily saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that in such a short time, all of these places that I was discovering for the first time as a traveler through Africa had disappeared very quickly. And that's why I think it's important to just show this footage. I think it's important for you to see it. This footage is the final glimpse into the hidden crevices of Ethiopia's metal district, an industrial maze now lost to sleek developments to draw in tourists. The latest development projects in Ethiopia exemplify this transition. What's happening in Ethiopia, what's happening in Addis particularly, is this introduction of large illuminated streets, public seating, captivating fountains that have quickly become communal gathering spots. All of these developments signify this forward-looking vision that Ethiopia has. Its leadership wants to take the reins of its country, clean it up, and showcase that it's a beautiful, capable, wonderful, developed place. And for the most part, it very much is. But all of that comes at a price. All of that comes at a cost. There has been increased criticism from Ethiopians, not from outsiders like myself, but from Ethiopians, various segments of the Ethiopian population, and their primary concerns are the forced displacement of people, the residents and businesses that were once here. The dual narrative of progress and loss encapsulates this complexity. Addis is stuck in this complex reality. And the city, while it strides towards modernization, it risks sacrificing the very essence that defines its character, the essence that made me fall in love with the country when I first arrived in 2019. It's very concerning because there are people that, through a development process, not war or conflict, but through a development process, have been erased from the very homes in which they had held for many, many, many decades. And in a few years, we'll see all the beauty in Addis. But will anybody talk about what was once there? This footage will show that at least I was able to walk through it. And to whatever degree I'm a journalist, and to whatever degree I'm a writer, and to whatever degree I'm an amateur videographer, this footage will show you what used to be. For the second part of my trip, we made our way to Dallol and the Danakil Depression. These are places in the north of the country, hours north of Addis, heading towards Eritrea. It's where Ethiopia becomes more desert land and deserted. So we made our way to Dallol and Danakil Depression, two of the most extreme places on Earth. This is the land of fire and salt, where boiling acid pools bubble beneath toxic alien landscapes. This is one of the hottest, lowest, and most otherworldly places on the planet, and I had to see this for myself.
Everything below here is actual salt. Literally just break it off.
Again, this footage is from 2019, and while these places have always had some of the most remote and extreme temperatures on Earth, it's important to know it's a blisteringly hot landscape of salt flats, acid pools. Volcanic craters, but since 2019, this place has become even more isolated. The Tigray War cut off all of the trade routes here. disrupted the livelihoods of the Afar people who lived here and traded salt, produced salt, transported salt across these vast miles of terrain. Roads fell into disrepair, local businesses suffered, and what was already a harsh environment nearly became completely inaccessible. Even as the war ended, the effects linger, leaving this otherworldly region more cut off than really anywhere else in the country. Despite the conflict, though, this place persists. The green and orange alien landscape of Dallol is the result of geothermic activity that sits atop a volcanic area. The heat pushes up through the salt deposits and it creates like this bubbling, spitting hot water out of the ground. So you walk through this area and the ground is crunching beneath your feet as these like little bubbles of acidic water are spurting. It like reminded me of the movie The Labyrinth, or walking into some weird alien movie set where I could not believe that this was actually real. It was a fascinating place to be, easily the strangest place I've been in the world. The entire place smells like a giant fart. I'm not kidding. It smells horrible. It's like being surrounded by a giant fog of noxious, sulfuric smell that is just you're engulfed in a giant cloud of this stuff. The colors here, though, are absolutely amazing. It creates these bright green and yellow colors that come from sulfur and acidic water, while the deep oranges and reds are due to iron oxidation. It's like the whole place is naturally rusting, but it's all out in the open. So everything is like turning to rust before your eyes. And if you're just quiet, it's all like just bubbling and smoking around you. It's a phenomenal place to explore and visit. It's truly fascinating. Very few people go there. It's one of the most inhospitable places on the earth. And the temperatures here exceed beyond 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That's like 48 degrees Celsius. There's no permanent settlements here. No one can live here. Only Afar nomads might pass through the region for salt mining. Tourists used to go in small tourist numbers drawn by this, bizarre landscape. That's why I went. But since the Tigray War, the area has become even more isolated. Safety concerns and challenges are keeping most of the people way in the north. Most of the time when you hear about travelers talk about Ethiopia now, they'll say, what is the north like? And they're talking about this area. This is, Tigray is in the northwest, Afar is in the northeast. And getting to these two places because of the conflict has really destabilized that part of Ethiopia. Again, this footage serves as some of the last footage you'll see before the first shots were fired in that conflict. Scientists are still going there. NASA used to do a ton of research there. They want to see what kind of bacteria or what kind of stuff can actually survive in these inhospitable places, because life simply cannot exist really in that area. It's so toxic that you really don't see any wildlife. You don't see any movement of anything around. Only the acidic geothermal activity that's bubbling up from the ground, creating all this crunchy salt and acidic dirt that's crunching beneath your feet. So researchers and scientists are very interested in it, and they're still going there. Its extreme conditions today still keep everybody away.
How you doing there?
Our final journey took us to the south of the country, to Omo Valley. This journey took us to the opposite end of the country, to the south, far away from Addis, far away from the watchful eye of the government. Ethiopia's tribal lands, called the Omo Valley. It's a protected area. It's its own state. This area is changing fast, and not in a way that benefits people who've lived here for centuries. Take the Mercy, for example. Known for their lip plates and cattle herding, they've survived in the Omo Valley for generations, moving with the seasons, living off the land. But their way of life is disappearing. First, the big dams. The Gibe 3 Dam, finished in 2015, messed up the natural flood of the Omo River. And the Omo River is the major river that's running through this area that provides water and life for all of the tribes in this region. And of course, there's the tourism. I saw this up close and personal for myself. As guests invited into the Mercy, we saw how tourists came. We saw the flow of international tourists come and take photos of these exotic lip-plated tribe, only to leave 24 hours later and offering nothing more than a little bit of money in return. The tourism sector has affected this tribe immensely. Tourists come to see something authentic, but in reality it's more complicated. The Mercy know that the people want photos to see them in traditional garb and traditional gear, so they put a lot of exotic fruits and things on their head that they don't normally wear. So if you go to any of your favorite travel vloggers right now on YouTube and you go type in Mercy tribe, you'll see all of these guys with millions of views sitting next to Mercy tribesmen that are wearing stuff that they wouldn't normally do because they've been conditioned by tourists to take photos with these like ridiculous things on their head that they normally never wear. But the tourists don't know that, and the tribe just knows that this is what they need to do to get a little bit of money. Meanwhile, the younger generation is seeing more of the outside world. Some want to leave their villages, go to school, get modern ideas of jobs and families, and live in a modern home. Others want to hold on to their traditions. Others are struggling to keep it together. But that's getting harder when the land is disappearing and all these tourists are coming in and disrupting the culture and the old way of life that used to dictate how everything was done in the south part of the country. The Mercy, like so many indigenous groups, are caught between the past and a future that doesn't exactly have a place for them. So that's it. Ethiopia is changing fast, and the places that you've seen in this video are places that you will never see again. Maybe a few instances, if you go to Ethiopia and you see some of these places, and you have a link to a video, let me know in the comments. I'd love to see that. But this is now the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of the last bit of footage that you'll see from this part of the world, because things are changing very rapidly in a place where no one's really paying a lot of attention, at least not for my country anyway. Dallol and the Danakil Depression, already some of the most remote places on Earth, have become even more isolated due to war and economic collapse. Addis Ababa is modernizing at breakneck speed, tearing down old neighborhoods and replacing them with highways and skyscrapers. In the Omo Valley, the Mercy and other tribes are losing their land to dam, commercial farms, tourism, pushing their way of life to the very brink, to the edge. This might be the last time you see any of those places before they transform into something totally unrecognizable. If you like this video, if you like what I'm trying to do, if you like what I'm showing, please take the time now, like, subscribe. I'm going to show you a lot more. I have a lot more coming up. My name is Jody. This is Where Jody At, Ethiopia. Thank you.